MR2 Spyder and you want more power, your options are limited. The most common power upgrade is a 2ZZ swap. Number 2 is a 1ZZ turbo. Now, it's a little more in depth, but it's definitely a good power upgrade for this car. The next option is a K swap. K24, K20, makes around 200 horsepower, sounds great, has VTEC. At top with difficulty and cost is a 2GR FE. Now this is the holy grail of swaps. Everybody and their mom also wants this, but it costs an arm and a leg and it's fairly complicated to do. Not only are your mods limited with this chassis, but most likely so is your budget. Because if it wasn't, you'd have a $35,000 Lotus. However, there is another option. Double the power, more reliable, and easy on your wallet. What's that, you may ask? Well, listen to this.
3-liter V6 engine that generates 194 horsepower and 209 pound-feet of torque.
It's the 2GR's older cousin, the 1MZ FE. 3-liter, dual overhead cam, widely used in Toyota's lineup in the 2000s and Avalon, Siennas. Very common, you can get them $300 to $400. Makes more power than the 1ZZ, makes more torque, more power and torque than the K-swap. A lot cheaper than all of those options for you, and it sounds like this. What does that mean for the MR2? A better power to weight ratio than a 2017 Mustang GT, E46 M3, AndysAutowerks STIs, all for under $3,000. A 0 to 60 time in under 5.6 seconds. Now, it's not gonna break any records, but with double the horsepower and torque, under $3,000, you really can't beat it. Let's take a look and see what's involved with swapping a 1MZ FE into this MR2 Spyder. This is the new V6 from Toyota Avalon. As you can see, the intake manifold is off. The modifications needed to be put in this Spyder is this axle carrier bracket. I cut off the original MR2 Spyder axle, just welded it to a plate. The water neck. Right here, you need to put a temp sensor in it. So you can see I have my exhaust already mounted. It does have AC as well. I did modify the AC bracket, as you can, hopefully you can see in this video. I moved the 2 mounting points for the new, I think it's still a Spyder. Yeah, it's a Spyder AC unit. Fuel rail is from a 3MZ FE. This makes it a lot simpler. It's a complete plug and play swap, and it has this quick connector. The connector is a direct connection with the MR2 Spyder connector. So it's this, and it connects to this piece right here. We'll get back to the engine in just a second. This sensor isn't used for the water line. Not sure why. This is capped off. This won't be. Next is the clutch setup. I have it's a 5 SFE flywheel that I've drilled out the holes so it mounts to the engine better. You don't have to get the $300 one that everyone gets. You just go to a machine shop and they'll drill it out for you. And then the clutch kit that I'm using, it's a stage 3, good for like 300 torque. And it's a springless clutch. So we'll see how that goes. Moving to the engine bay. Looks a little messy, so I'll try to break it down a little bit. First is the coolant hoses. So you can see I kind of made my own. I did wrap it because the exhaust sits right over here. So sits something like this. And then this one here, that's just a pipe that I use to cover it up while I'm working on it. But it just goes up and around, it comes this way. Mounts. I'm using the original Spyder mounts. And this is, let's see here. This is the Spyder mount that I made, that I will be selling. And it's a direct bolt-on kit to the engine. So it looks something like this. The engine sits like this, and then this just sits right on top, like that. Pretty simple, works good, exactly what you need. And you don't have to, you basically use one mount. Next one is the driver's side, again, factory MR2 Spyder mount. You don't need to make another one for there. This is the transmission, and this is the mount that I made, and again that I will be selling as part of the kit. And just this piece here, and it just bolts on to the original bracket, original transmission bracket. You can see here, pretty simple, nothing complicated. And then this is my shifter assembly that I made. Now, you may need to make your own sort of gear selector if you don't use the MR2 S54 transmission. This comes from mostly, this is a 99 Toyota Celica GD transmission, and because the gear selector is on this side instead of being on the other side, like the S54, the Mark II, I did have to kind of make my own sort of thing. This is a an assembly from the Spyder that I basically just made this like one big bracket. The shifter cable sitting there, and these are two. So first gear, second, third, fourth, fifth, reverse. I sealed it up because I did put a limited slip differential in it. As you can see, it is solid. So limited slip is from a Mark III MR2 from the UK. Pretty common. It's the helical one, clutchless. You don't need to service it or anything. This is the coolant line. This is a big metal piece that I bought, aluminum, and then you got and it just sits something like this, like that, and then this piece sits something like this. This is the cross member, and as you can see, I just cut a section out of it and then just welded plates back into it to make it strong, or I guess as strong as it used to be. And this just clears just enough of the S54. You will need this modification done in order to fit the transmission. There's not much space in the front. As you can see, I did hammer it a little bit in there because I am running the same alternator. I think some alternators are a little bit smaller and you can fit them, but it's a very tight space. I did hammer out a little bit. That cutout that you see, that's for to check the oil. I check it from inside the cabin. Some people just cut a big section out of here. It's way too complicated. You just need to check the oil. Servicing this engine, you can drop it a little bit down, and then from there you can, access spark plugs. It's a pain, but I've done it and I know it's possible. The wiring harness is still in here because I already had it swapped, so I'm just changing the engine now. But coolant reservoir overflow, this was changed from this side, and I moved it to this side. Just use some regular line that hooks right into the coolant neck right here. Simple and effective, and you can reuse the same one. You just need to cap off the end. There's a little piece in the end that usually overflows right here. There it is. Just cap that off, and that's it. Cross member I cut. It's like 2 pieces here for the rear support. It's really flimsy metal, not really needed. And then this piece used to be the other way and about right here. So flip it, pull it back, just get some regular metal, weld the 2 spots, bring this sort of in the middle, and it's perfect. And then these are for my hinges. Those are Aerotech, I believe. You can find them like on Amazon for like 80 bucks. Locking ones, pretty good quality. It is plastic, however, it's not metal. I didn't want metal, but all the ones they sell are plastic, as far as I know. The axles are MR2 Spyder axles. They bolt directly into the S54. No modification needed. Okay, this is the engine and transmission. These are the bolts. First bolt. All right, I don't know if you can see that, but first bolt right here. It goes through here and it screws into the transmission. Through there, transmission. And then bolt number 2 is right over here. Goes through. The dowel pin is also right here. It's bolt number 2. Bolt number 3. This is where the starter sits in these 2 bolts. Bolt number 4 is right here. I put another bolt that, not a bolt, but like, I don't know what you call that, but a little spacer, because the bolt is a little too long. That's all I had. 1MZ. So that's 4 bolts. And then you could also make this one work, but I don't have that bolt. So I have 4 up top, more or less. I have 3 up top, 1 there, and then nothing on the bottom. And this is where this plate comes into play. That's what it looks like. So I'm gonna bring it in the light. So I put a little dust cover because this is where the flywheel cover would be. But basically, I took 2 bolts to make like sort of like dowel pins. I welded them on, grinded it down, and then there's 1 main bolt in the middle with a little spacer. With just like another, just space it out just enough where it actually will grab onto the block. You'll see it in a second here. So okay, there you go. So there are 2 dowel pins right here. So then, that's 1, number 2, so you can see it. There you go, 1, 2, and the bolt hole. So it sits. I'm gonna take like this. Kind of sits like that. And what it does is when this compresses, it's like this is the bolt holes. So this is the transmission, this is the engine. And it kind of compresses it together like a sandwich. And there you go. Those are, I guess, 2 more mounting points. And that's enough to hold. That's what I gotta work with. This, when you don't have a garage. Here, wanna give me a camera?
Yeah.
Alright. This is underneath the car. And that's the mount. So, I'm gonna say like so. Make sure holes line up.